sure that we all are in one space. Okay, cool. Again, welcome. My name is Marianne Laney. I'm one of the co-chairs here at Child Development for SEC, Marianne Laney. One of the newer full-time faculty. And well, let's just go around the table and introduce ourselves. Can we start with Dr. Lamoureux? She's our other co-chair.
And she did that because I'm the oldest person. Well,
You are the fearless leader, whether you like it or not.
I was thinking legacy, so I look at legacy.
this is my 25th year, and this is such a joy to have a team. I finally have a team.
Yeah.
I stayed long enough to see the team, to play with the team. You don't know how great that is when you're here by yourself. You have all these great ideas, and you realize I'm only one person. Kind of like that commercial with the emu. He's just a dreamer. Anyway, I'm glad that my manifested having this journey. This is getting exciting, especially with all the new things happening in education, P3 credential, and well, not some of the things in Washington, but we'll get to that. But anyway, welcome, and I'm anxious to hear your ideas. I've already heard a few from this young lady over here. So,
You want to call it for next, or do you want to just it's up to you?
yeah, no, Jessica.
Okay, my name is Jessica Magdaleno. I am a family childcare provider in the city of Orange County in Garnero. I've been doing this for 24 years. I am here representing family childcare providers with our association, Orange County Family Childcare Association. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Chung. I'm a counselor in the business and career education.
Good morning and thank you, everyone. I'm the baby of the group. And so, and I'm Keisha Champion. So glad to be here. This is our second year. We're in our second year of the tenure track. Thank you for being here. I am leading practicum, so I would love to have some conversations with you all about where we are with that. I actually have a nice little blue report for you. And all things curriculum, all things preparing the student to be the teacher they always want. So thank you for being here.
I'm Jennifer Willis. I work for Rainbow Rising Child Development Center and Raising Rainbows, which is a new company we opened about a year and a half ago. We are located in the Irvine School District. So Rainbow Rising is a licensed child care program. We're at 15 elementary schools. And we've been in Irvine since 1989. And then Raising Rainbows is our new sister company. We've partnered with IUSD to run 17 of their expanded learning programs. So one is a licensed child care program. One is a state funded program where the children have to qualify. Both amazing programs. We've actually had a lot of staff that have come from SCC that work in our child care program. So I'm happy to be here. So was Shelby here from it? Shelby Clutterbuck? Long time ago, she actually worked City of Irvine way back when she was in the child care coordination office. So we worked closely with ICCP. So I met Shelby many years ago. I haven't seen her for a while because I think she's
at Irvine Valley College.
Okay, yeah. So
She was an adjunct with us for years.
Yes.
Actually, my first adjunct that I hired when
yes, I love her. It's been a very long time since we've seen her, but she used to work really closely with our licensed childcare programs. So, excellent.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Victoria Villa, and I am the UPK coordinator with the Orange County Department of Education. I have been there for a little over 11 years, and it's been wonderful. And prior to that, I worked in the 4-year-old classroom, so at a Head Start preschool. So early childhood has my heart, and I'm really excited to be here.
Congratulations on your coordination.
Thank you. So I'm Julie Dela. I work at Vanguard University. I am the credential analyst and student teaching placement coordinator. So I work with all candidates, multiple subjects, single subjects, and the brand new PK3 ECE credential. So I'm a certified official. I always have myself on the checklist person and work with students along the way as they pursue the teaching credential.
I am Sarah Shawish. I am full-time faculty here at SEC, but my role is a little untraditional in the fact that I don't typically teach classes. I run our early childhood apprenticeship program. And I will give you a full report when we get to that in the agenda, but really my role here is to help those students that are ready to be in the workforce but need those units. And so really bridging that gap between workforce and academics.
Hi, and I am Amy Breeze, and I chair the education department here at SCC and also the reading department. In 2000, I started out as a kindergarten teacher and had a really great life in elementary ed. And then about 8 years later, I entered the higher ed world. Started out as an adjunct here, and in 2016 was hired on full time and got my tenure in 2020. And something that I'm really excited about is working with all of you, and we are doing a lot of bridging right now. And so I just feel so blessed. I get to take my two passions of education and reading, and we are bringing those departments together with child development and our apprenticeship program. And we're just so excited about it because right now with the PK through third grade credential, what a better time to do that. And Regina, we have a team. Regina and I've been like on our own in these two areas, and we just have the most amazing colleagues. So we're really looking forward to that. And I just can't thank you enough for being here today. We're really looking forward to knowing more about your programs and how we can better work mutually together and how our students can also hear more about you. So we want to be open to many different ways of doing that. I know so many of you have already offered to give presentations, and Marianne and I were just talking about some virtual options that our students who are online and can't always get to campus maybe. We've had some Canvas shells in the past with our counselors, James and Cynthia have been doing a great job on that. So Marianne's going to share with us a little later. It's kind of just that idea of just like how you can send us things, and then we have a place to place it there for students in a resource area. And we, of course, our instructors can go there too and remind our students as well. But so many great things to come, and we're just excited to work with you all. So thanks for taking time every morning to be here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Nathan Brace. I work at Vanguard, and I've been in our education department for about 5 years now. I serve as the assistant director of our graduate programs in education. So that includes our PK3 credential, but also, of course, the multiple subject, single subject. And Julie and I work really closely together. I'm sure you would probably know about Dr. Jeff Hittenberger from OCD. He's our dean, and so he's got a lot of exciting things happening. There's a new master's degree that we're going to be bringing in with an integrated administrative services credential and those kind of things. But I think for this conversation, I'm really interested to get the perspective from the child development folks and see what's going on here. I know practicum is a big part of what we're trying to do and establish more partnerships for that for our PK3 folks. So I'm really glad to be here.
On a side note, maybe we can have a conversation later about the importance of having a doctoral program for child development, because California still, although one started in LA County, I belong to Peach, and one of our goals with Peach, and we had a funding for First Five and LA Up when they were still around, was to have a doctoral program in child development here in California, because most everyone has to go online, or you have to go to Chicago or back east or somewhere to get online. So I do have some friends that just started with United Methodist Institute. It's a private university, and they literally are in their the end of their first semester towards that program. So if LA County can get it, I'm sure Orange County can get it too. So just, something to put on the back burner, because eventually, I mean, you're all very young, but we have to keep the field going. And especially with our students who are leaving us and moving on and transferring, a lot of the people I know that are teaching are ready to retire and move on to other things. And there's not as many people with doctoral degrees, especially in the birth to 8, that are ready to take that spot. Just a little side note.
And that is understanding, 2004, I got my doctorate in Florida, for the same reason, child and youth studies, because there wasn't anything in California.
Yeah,
My master's there also.
yeah.
That is really sad that it's unchanged
Yeah.
all the time.
So there's some other people talking about, PO's talking about it, SC's talking about it, Cal State LA is talking about it, Ohio Pomona. So a lot of people are talking about it. I know it takes time, but I think one of the reasons that this private university is able to do it because they don't have all the hoops that the states always do. So again, something.
Excellent. Well, like Amy mentioned, we can keep going forward in the agenda. The very first part we wanted to talk about is how we are combining departments. You can tell that we're thrilled about that, but what that means for our outside partners is that we historically had education and child development separately, but for no faults of our own. And recently, we've had some budget shifts around, so where we brought education to the career development side, because that's really what it is. We are developing quickly so we can fill these holes. I understand there's so many holes elsewhere, and even in other countries, that they are getting bonuses and travel and housing and all kinds of things. So we need to prepare our people for our community, but also maybe some international kind of placements. And so again, combining departments keeps us from being solo practitioners in trying to fight and find resources to help our students move forward. So again, this is part of building that collaboration between us and also rebuilding a stronger collaboration in the community. So,
And I think if I could add to that, from my perspective, I'm the brain-trust here, is that part of what will enable us to do is to have a better influence of the people preparing to go into the PK3 side, is to get more grounding in child development. I wish I had money for every time I hear somebody complain, well, they won't sit still to listen to whatever. And I'm going, that's 3-year-olds. 3 and 4-year-olds are not short 3rd and 4th graders. And I think a lot of the time, people that are trained, and I'm not trying to put it down, it's just your experience. They don't realize that there is a distinct difference between a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old and an elementary age child, and that's brain development. And I'm actually a little bit surprised. I started doing this when I had my preschools back in the 90s, and I went back and looked at all of the information available. Most of it isn't enacted by our schools. And I think even our 4-year schools need to do a better job in preparing teachers for the brain development, not only the pedagogy. Pedagogy is secondary to what brains can do. And I think once they understand what a 3-year-old brain, 4-year-old brain can do, I didn't say less academic. You got to do it differently for that brain, not to do it. I mean, I don't know what's not academic. I mean, life is academic. But anyway, but that's just my 2 cents. She knew I was going to bring brain.
What is that? Exciting, but is there anything else you want to share about the department and how it moves forward and how what some of our bigger projects?
Well, there's so many that I wish I had another lifetime, but I don't. I've already hit the recruiters. But we've got some exciting things happening. The combination will enable us to do more of that with the the education side, but even on the child development side, we'd like to expand how we offer support to family daycare home providers in other languages. I mean, that in itself is a whole new area. Apprenticeship, Sarah has ideas for how to change the apprenticeship and even non-English speaking apprenticeships for people. So that's another area. So we just got so much on our plate, and I would like to have some information on parenting and grandparenting, because we assume that grandparents know what to do this day and age with their grandchildren, and a lot of their angst is because things change, folks. And you can't put the baby back in the bottle or Asian anyway. And so even though they're grandparents, they do need to understand that what you can ask children to do and how you ask them to do is different in 2025 than it was in 1965. You can't make anybody do anything. And a lot of those authoritarian ways of dealing with discipline, all that just are not appropriate, nor do they never work. It's just fear overruled. But I think grandparents could use an update. And parents also, a lot of parents don't have the information they need for these changing, like kids are reaching puberty a lot sooner in elementary school, and we need to be able to help parents understand. You need to start talking about the birds and the bees and how it gets here long before they get there, and not wait until it happens to go like, oh, No, this is what I got to do. So there's a lot of those types of things, and also dealing with educators. I think the role of parents has always been important, but never more so now when people have so much influence on what is done in schools, with school boards and all of that. So I think it's all of that that we'd like to be the resource place and the information provider with the research, because that's what makes the difference, is telling people what the research shows, even though facts might be dead, research isn't. And I think that's our role, is to provide that.
Keisha, you wanna go? I mean, no one needs to fight over this here. Sarah, you can jump in.
I would be glad to share. So, 2 semesters ago, SCC decided that we would bring practicum back. In the past, we had shared practicum with our sister SAC. And over some time, SAC then really took over most of the classes, and students still came over here to our Child Development Center, and there was a shared teacher, kind of a co-teaching that was happening. And so when, as a department and with the support of the division and our dean, we decided we would bring it back. I then kind of hit the ground running. And so, and I'm still going, so I'm actually, if you see my feet moving, it's because I'm running. So, and I am that person that doesn't sit still or stand still, ever. So I do have a beautiful, I like color coding, thanks, James. I do have a piece of, just a short piece of information for you. Please read it at your leisure, and I'm not gonna go through every piece of it, but I do wanna share with you the wins and the victories that we have. Even though this is our 3rd semester, I can probably say that we have already seen 8 students pass the practicum class successfully with a C or better grade. And I just want to give a footnote to, when I say a student pass with a C or better grade, I know we're used to that, and that's what people are supposed to do. Keep in mind that practicum is our capstone class. So when a student leaves and they received a C, that's not like, oh, I got a C, that wasn't a lot. That means that you can go into the workforce, that you can be an assistant, you can be an associate, you can even be a teacher in a program. You can maybe even start your own family childcare provider business, that you can really go in and be the lead teacher that we expect you to be and that you're supposed to be. So the C is the benchmark. And the B means you are above, right? And then the EA means that you have reached excellence. So this is the conversation I have with students, because I think sometimes they're surprised that if they don't get an A or a B and what that means. And so I just wanted to clarify, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but I just wanted to clarify that with you. And I really want, another win was our relationship with Dr. Janet Linnell, who's not here. She's the executive director over the Child Development Centers, with all of our 8 programs, SAC, SEC, as well as our other places. And with her and Enriqueta, who's the person at the here on campus, we have been able to really build a partnership. We've been able to do some collaborations. We've been meeting with the teachers. I'm over at the center. It really feels like not only are we moving in the direction we all want to go, but it's really nice to have a partnership and a collaboration. And so this semester is the largest class we've had so far. And so far I have 7 students who are still, some are still looking to be placed. Some of the challenges that we have been facing is students are surprised that practicum is between 6.5 and 7 hours of one day. This semester particularly, they had forgotten to talk to their employers or let their employers know that this was something they were scheduling or something they needed to schedule. And so that's something we have been talking about as a department. We have Q&As that I think Marianne might discuss in as well. And so we've been sharing that information with them from our 107, our first classes, all the way through, so it's not a surprise. What we were able to do, and I'm so appreciative that our department was able to come together. Janice met with us, and Dr. Marmoreau was able to put a letter together to send to the employers to let them know the importance of what would be student. A lot of people understand student teaching. Not everyone understands what practicum means and what it equals in early childhood education. And so we sent out 5 letters, and so far 3 students were able to stay in the class, and their employer was able to make a shift for them. 2 students we are waiting to hear back. It actually, for those students, just a quick note, they actually have to connect with HR, and although their supervisors are supportive. So that's one of the pieces that we're looking at. How can we support students and communicate that in a way that they really understand the power behind this time? And that time is with a mentor teacher or a lead teacher. So this is one-on-one with a student who is working one-on-one with one of the lead teachers or the mentor teachers in our area. And they have, where they're gaining all of the experience they will need to be successful as they graduate, transfer, as they make decisions about what they want to do and where they want to go. And so I just want to thank you all for seeing the wonderful steps that we're making. If you have any suggestions, please feel free. I have my cards here. I'll be glad to share those. I'm in many ways, I'm old school, and I say that with love, and I think that's a great thing to be called. And I like talking about stuff. Emails are nice, they're quick, but you can't hear my passion. You can't hear the tone. I can't hear how your day is going. I can't hear if this is something that, why this is something that's not working for you. So I will be putting my cell phone number and my numbers on here. Feel free to call, and we can connect. I know we've already talked about some things. I'd love to have more conversations with you guys as well.
Quick question, sure. What kind of, number one, I guess, is the practicum aligned with a course, like there's an academic course, and then what kind of sites do you have?
So thanks for that. That's a great question. So yes, it's actually Child Development 298, and we have an A, a B, and a C. So the A is early childhood, practicum in early childhood. And then our B is practicum in infants and toddlers. So we're making this decision, and through our advisory, that A and B are going to end up becoming combined. As we're looking at the TK3 credentials and looking at other things that are happening, we're going to be combining A and B. And so our students will be able to be in programs from birth to 8. And then we also have a school age. So it is part of the curriculum alignment. It's also part of the CAP alignment, which you might be familiar with, curriculum alignment project that started back in the early 2000s. And so it is also part of the curriculum alignment. We currently are partnering with our RSCCD program, so we could go to any of those 8 programs, and a mentor teacher site. And so we just actually held the mentor teacher meeting here on our campus, and worked with Laura Vidal, and we met probably about 15, I think, of the 25 mentors. And so that's currently what's in curriculum and part of the.
So the foundation for practicum is the CAP alignment project, the 7 courses. And you can tell it's child development, observation, assessment,
Health safety.
health safety, nutrition.
Yeah.
And then the rest
So
of
it's child family community, so principles and practices. So it's the core 12, especially the 12 units for Title 22, as well as for getting the permit and so on.
I guess I'm primarily asking because we, students who are pursuing their PK3 credential can receive up to 400 hours.
Correct.
Towards their hours. So in one field, it's through their coursework. And I think for that piece, it's a specific age, so like the infant practicum would not count.
Correct. That's why we're making the shift. So, and we, right now, students receive a minimum of 81 hours in the field work portion. So the class is seminar hours and fieldwork hours. Those fieldwork hours are a minimum of 81. We're actually pushing or gently moving the students to get at least 100 hours, which will help them as before they transfer. So they'll have 100 hours here at the community college level, and then when they transfer to you, then that's less hours that they will have to have once they get to you. Plus, they'll have the experience here at the community college level, which gets them the foundation that they'll need when they go to the upper division practicum courses. And so it's not starting from scratch, or this is the first time I've been in a room with children and I don't know if this is what I want.
Especially we have a lot of people taking online classes, so
Yes.
taking online classes and not work with children. And then their practicum was online, then they would graduate, not ever working with children to know what it is in reality versus virtual, because they're not the same type of classroom.
And I do have to say that our first semester, even last semester, we had half of the students, that was their experience. And so for them to come into practicum was very eye-opening for them. And it was very, for some, it was, they had a lot of disequilibrium. And so, which is okay. I actually think it's great. One of the reasons we're adding observations, bringing back observations to all levels of our classes is because we want students to experience children earlier on. I'll never forget a student who was ready to graduate, and I'm not here ready to graduate, took practicum and was like, I don't like them. I don't want to be in a classroom. They're, their face, they're not, and everything. And I was like, wow, I wish, I'm glad to hear that you know what you want to do, but it would have been better if you would have found out maybe the first or second semester, but you can still work in the field. You can go to child life. We still need people to have the foundation of the 4-8, right? So that's part of it as well.
So cool.
And practicums, that's my baby. Sarah also has started her practicum with her apprenticeships. And so I still remember my practicum like it was yesterday. My practicum at Long Beach City College actually did get me ready for a job within the next year and a half. I actually was a child development specialist at Long Beach City College, where I had been a practicum student, and I was there for 5 years. So that got me ready for the future that I was looking to have. So any conversations about practicum, we'd love to have we'll do some tea. I'm not a coffee person, but thank you so much.
Just quickly here, that we forgot, tell them about our new classroom.
So we don't have time. We're just going to meet with you guys again, and we're going to invite you to B204. So if you're ever on campus, please come to B as in Bravo, 204. That's what security always says when we have to call them. I'll say B204. She's like, are you saying Bravo? So now I say Bravo 204. And it is Bravo. And so we have a new environment. It's bigger than what we had, wider than what we had in the bungalows. And it's fresh paint, clean carpet. And if you don't know that Marianne is the plant guru, we only have 8 plants in that room. There's 100 plants in our office, but 8 plants in our room.
So
I think it's a low estimate.
Yeah, so it's
too long to me. So, but what I will say is we are now in this main corridor, and just the other day, I saw the door was open. I saw some people go back and forth a couple times, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And they walked in. They're like, "What room is this? Who are you? It's so nice in here." And then they saw the baskets on the table, and the young man said, "This reminds me of 4th grade, where my teacher had the baskets on the table with the pencils and the scissors and everything, and they're like, the music and everything coming." And I said, "And we have food." And so we always have food. So I'm like, "Come, have some food. If you want to study, you can study. I'm getting ready for the next class. Come on in." So people are coming by and just really enjoying it. And they're like, "What do you do? What does this look?" I said, "We work with children. This is the child development."
And 2 of our classes are transferable to the 4-year.
Yes, and I think we've gotten like 6 students to come.
And we have a volunteer.
Yes, yeah, we can hear the children and everything. So we'll just have to have our next meeting there. It's fun. It's a fun room. And we have, oh, excuse me, I have to say, and we have 2 seats.
Hot water.
With
Hot water.
With
Yeah.
hot-
So wild.
So we moved on up, we see.
That's right. It took how long? 20?
23 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Started really last week.
Okay, welcome to our new guest. Can you introduce yourself and then
Yeah,
we'll do a quick round up?
Alex Lynn, I oversee our local studies program, specifically elementary education. So you met my colleague, Julie Delao. She kind of handles the credential side, but I work with graduates. I teach her classes, oversee your program. So, that's good. So I'm excited about this today. And on Tuesday, I'm having a job this week. So thank you again for always including me in ways that anger to be part of the So nice to meet all of you.
Excellent, welcome. It's a perfect transition.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Sure, I will jump in. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us and thank you in advance for presenting. Cynthia Ferrofino,
Yeah.
who is our wonderful counselor, along with James, has been promoting that to our instructors and we've been passing that along to our students. So I hope we get a
Yeah,
nice
excited.
turnout. So thank you
Excited.
so much.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to have your colleagues here as well. I am Amy Freeze and I've been here at SCC for years, and I'm just so excited to be assisting in the education department, in the reading department. And when you walked in, everyone, there were 2 different flyers, actually 3. One, I'll get to Pathways to Teaching in just a moment, and that has some of our Cynthia has done a wonderful job of thank you so much of sharing our. This one's right here. Yeah, I'll talk about Pathways to Teaching right now. So since I've got this in my hand, thank you, Marianne. And I think to register, you need to put a student ID, you need to enter with a student ID. But if any of you ever want to sit in on one of those, just email our Pathways to Teaching email that'll go to Cynthia, and you can sit on it, and we'll send you the Zoom link. So if for some reason that QR code isn't working for you, there's a way to still have you join us. But Cynthia's done a wonderful job. And like I was saying earlier, it doesn't have to just stop here. There are other ways, including digitally and virtually, that we can provide these resources to our students in some type of a Canvas shell or anything else that maybe we all want to come up together as an advisory group. So our Pathways to Teaching, our hub is right outside there. Our college is going through some space changes.
Growing.
Yeah, and like beautiful growing things. And then also, you know, times when you need to really advocate for the students and for your areas. So we're going through, the growing is going to come with a few growing pains.
So
but
what she's trying to say is that while we love this space, this is a temporary.
it is. So we're still kind of figuring out where education and Pathways to Teaching is going to land, but we have a retreat today with our business and career education. So our departments get to join together today, and
That's right. After
really
you guys get
great.
to go home, we keep going.
Yes, we're gonna keep on going. So you know, when you think about Pathways to Teaching, I'm sure you all have pathways, whether it's a part of your business and how students can grow through that, and as employers, but also at universities as well. And so that's very important to us. So if for some reason you don't see yourself on here, we've always kind of pictured like Pathways to Teaching is like our umbrella over child development and education. And now I think what's so exciting with the K through 3rd grade credential is it really is intentionally going to give us all right, we really need to allow for our students to have these experiences of, yes, finding out what age group they might like to work with. What is that fit for them? Obviously, we can all look back through our careers and think like, gosh, I thought I was going to do this and I did this for a while, but then it led to that other pathway and opportunity. And at the same time, like that early brain, you know, teaching and understanding and appreciation. So I'm excited for us to provide that better for our students. And we also take the practicum fieldwork hours very seriously and the education side of things. So moving on to education, we have those hours embedded in many of our courses. So I think by the time they are exiting through our education program, if they're getting the AA for transfer, the AA, they've got about 100 hours logged. And we have to be very strict to that. And James knows, because we have been doing our agreements with OUSD, and we make sure that our courses that we're going to articulate over and that they will have college credit, that those hours need to be logged. So for example, like we have an education 110 and a 113 course, and one comes with 20 hours of fieldwork, the other comes with 16. So that particular course, it's called, well, we've got like careers in education is what it's going to be called at the high school. But we need to make sure that those students are logging those 36 hours and that it's with a credentialed teacher at a public or charter school, and that that's being logged and signed each time. And then that way, all those hours, we talk about like our portfolio when we teach our students how to create that portfolio, and that they're keeping that. So then when it's time for them to go and transfer to university, right, we know that that admission might say, do we have your hours? And they can say, yes, they are right here, and they are logged. So, and that's, our contract with even the CSU. So we want to always make sure that even if they're going to a private university and, that's accredited, just want to make sure that we're always aligned there.
What you said, OUSD, what is that?
Yes, sorry about that. So Orange Unified School District. And of course, our students are welcome to do their fieldwork hours at any K through 12 school. It needs to be public or charter, not at least through the CSU. So we, there are a lot of really great private schools out there, but we need to kind of just stick to what our students are going to need when they transfer. So sometimes we'll run into, I was even sharing this at our meeting the other day when one of our Orange Unified School District high school partners asked a question, and then they said, are the students going out and finding their own field work, school to do their field work hours? And yes, because a lot of times we want them to either go back to the school that they went to, or just something that's convenient and close to home. So we encourage them to do that, and we want our students to take that responsibility and be a self-starter. But sometimes our students need a little bit more, support, hand-holding. I like to be like arm in arm, like encouragement. So I think that's something that we need. Our instructors are really great because we've got context and partnerships, and we'll say if our students are having a hard time finding a school to do their fieldwork hours, we'll say, contact this particular district, call this teacher. Like, we want them to do it on their own.
Right. There's a lot of stuff.
But sometimes you gotta kind of be like here. So, but I do feel like I would like to have a little bit more of a better, like, resources. So I know all the rules. Something that we encountered the other day, we had a student who's taking education 220. She reached out to her professor and I'm in the Corona North Coast School District, and they're saying that we need to they don't have an MOU with Santiago Canyon College. And so I talked with the professor and said, actually, we don't have MOUs with the elementary schools or the high schools. We are a community college where our students aren't technically doing their student teaching, right? They are a volunteer status. So they really don't really need an MOU. And so we wrote a letter shared that with the student, or actually sent it directly to that. I think we sent it directly to the principal, and they said, I'm sorry, we still need an MOU. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, is there a breakdown in communication? We really try to provide backup. Maybe they do have stricter rules there, right? We respect that. So we kind of like tried plan A, tried plan B, and then we were like, and we had it come from us, and we still got the no, and it could be just that that person doesn't, but maybe they have their own roles. But we would like to still provide that for just more resources for our students. You know, we all just do that kind of personally as instructors, but I think we would love to hear more from, you know, if you have contacts, and it's all those great things that Keisha was talking about, like the phone calls, we'd love to be able to send us a text, give us a ring. And I have my business cards. I will make sure that I put my cell phone number on that as well. Victoria, yesterday we went to the OCDE Pathways,
Workforce.
showcase.
Yeah.
Yes, and Sarah and I were there, and it was wonderful. And it's been really fun. We've been on Zoom with so many of our OUSD partners, and it was so fun to meet them there last night. We ran into people from all walks of life, and it was just another reminder how important it is to really team up and because we're creating these great experiences for our students. Our Education 101 class, for example, comes with 8 hours of field work that they need to complete. So that's kind of nice. Like they don't have to do 20 or 45 hours like in some of our other courses. It's like, just like a nice way for them to step in and
Get the feet wet.
get their feet wet. They're getting their G. That's also, you know, they can use it for their GE if they're not going to end up going into child development or education. But it's just like a nice way to say like, oh, maybe teaching's for me, or
It's something parallel.
exactly. And one of my favorite parts when I teach Education 101 is for my students to have, even if it's an online course and but they got to go in person to do their field work. And I love the presentations that they give it. So we really make sure like it's a great practice for them because they're really like teaching their peers about their experience, and they have to do a field work report, and we walk them through that process. But they're presenting and what they've really experienced, they all say it was their favorite part of the course, is really getting in there and having that experience. Just to touch on a few different things that the different certificates that we have of achievement and our degrees. I'm just going to go through really quickly and read them off to you. At our retreat today, I'm going to work with we're going to like work together and then break up a little bit. But there are some things that we need updating. And if there's anything that I mentioned and it like sparks a thought, feel free to contact me and be like, Amy, did you think about, because looking over our certificates, even the verbiage, like sometimes I think what we have right now, like a little outdated. Like I really feel like we could update that a little bit better, and I will revise that and run that through our curriculum.
Yeah, we could all use a glow up sometimes.
Yeah,
Now
so
this is, yeah,
so
this
this
is
is
part
like
of
a time to do that. So for example, we've got 4 education certificates of achievement. We have the after school program assistant and the after school program associate teacher. Kind of feel like that's a little limiting. Yes, there are after school programs, but it really could even say instructional assistant or teaching assistant or aide or paraprofessional, right? We want to just make it so. I'm like, okay, gotta get back in there and like, what are
and before
the
that, wasn't
jobs?
it called tutors?
Yeah. Right. So it's like, okay, what are the job titles that are out there right now that the school districts really need? Maybe even, you know, I'm at my son's school. There are a lot of students that are going to community college, and they are the PE assistants, and they don't necessarily have a certificate. They're there and they're employed. So how else can we support them? And my gardener, I was just the other day he's been like our family gardener for 30 years. And his son is an instructional aide in special education. He doesn't have any schooling. Our friend Mel, our gardener, was like, I really want him to go back to school. But and it's like, oh my gosh, an apprenticeship program would be like perfect for him. He just needs to like know that there's a way. He just needs to know that there's a way and support, and that he could come out with a certificate or a degree. And I'm like, would your son like to make a little bit more money? Like if he's really enjoying that. So just all great different ways. Our 2 other ones of our certificates is the bilingual instructional aid. We have an amazing new Spanish hire, VNA. And she has been, you know, we're all like thinking outside of the box right now. She has a Spanish 115 team course that she offers. And now we're looking at that like, okay, this is like professional development. So that we can offer to either teachers that want to just kind of freshen up their Spanish and be able to communicate with the parents of their students, or sometimes even it might, I think she gave me an example, DNA did, of 2 of her students this past semester were over at one of the middle schools, and they both worked in the office. They were staff, and they said, we want to really be able to communicate better with the families of our students. I need to brush up on that Spanish, and I need some of that conversational Spanish. So that was another just great idea. And be thinking of that too. But there are some of our employees, whether they have particular degrees or certificates, but we'd really love to have like a particular course made. For example, right now, one of our education courses, we have technology for educators, and another new course that's going through curriculum right now this semester. It'll go through its second read, and we'll probably be offering, if not by the last 8 weeks of this semester, at least by summer. Scott James, our awesome distance ed professor, is creating an AI for educators course. So it's a kind of general one, would be all the way from early childhood to higher ed. But once I asked Scott, I was like, would you be willing to create courses, and can we help you write ones that would be for different age groups? And so he said yes. And so we'll get there, but that's just an example. And then we have our special education paraprofessional certificate as well. And Elise Locken, she's our awesome professor who that's her specialty in special education, and she works for the Irvine School District. So it's always great to when a lot of our adjunct professors are out in the field working, and they're able to provide that feedback for us and grow that area. I know Chapman University, for example, with this new PK through 3rd grade credential, a lot of the universities are, all of you are, I can't to hear more about that, but like everybody's picking different specialties. We've got the urban learning over at Cal State Fullerton, special education at Chapman, and I'll share a little bit more in a bit too on that. So that's exciting, and it's fun for us to then be, when we hear what our students might be looking for, they need a little bit of direction. It's like, oh wow, did you know that this particular university offers that? And then our 2 education associates of arts degrees are elementary education, and then elementary teacher education that's the AAT. So that's the one that most of our students will get because they're going to transfer over to university, and this is kind of their beginning of their K through 12 or even higher ed. One thing that I feel like we could do a little bit better, and Pathways to Teaching has always kind of held that, it's been that umbrella for us, but our students who know that they want to work through like that K through 6 or K through 8 and get that elementary credential eventually, or the multiple subject, I feel like they're really here in the space with us. But sometimes we have students who they know that they want to be a science teacher. They know they want to be a single subject. They are an English major, and then they want to be in, they've got enough time. They're part of our Pathways to Teaching program or our trio for future teachers, but there's just a little bit more that we're trying to link up with some of those single subjects that I feel like we want you to be able to link up with them too. So we're trying to kind of figure out how, I just know we could do that a little bit better.
I like that our college is looking more at those half-time like instructors who, yes, maybe they were hired in this department, but they can do partial over here, Sky and DNA and things like that. So,
Yes.
so we're trying to adjust with some of these new forced adjustments in education. It's so different than it was even 5 years ago.
It really is.
And then not even talking about last 10 years or 20. So we're trying to be as responsive as we can under the guise of being a state agency, where sometimes our curriculum moves very, very slow. But any ideas that a lot of times we're in the bubble, but we don't think of some of the things that could be a great fit for our partners. So that's what we're here to hopefully we can hear from you guys and see how we can more tightly collaborate together and support the students all the way through. So we can have them ready to go with a really strong and robust education under them as they even move forward into your program. So.
That is true. Thank you so much, Mary.
And by the
for
way,
adding that.
I think you need to get a little more enthusiastic. Your shell.
Every once in a while, even in my college courses, I'm like, I'm sorry, the kindergarten teacher just came out a little bit there. But thank you so much. And to wrap up the other part of it that we're bringing over from our arts, humanity, and social science division is the reading department, which is really what originally I was hired for here at SCC, but so passionate about that. Our reading courses, which I did, you can see, these are our education courses. I talked about a few of those, or you can see what they are, but I talked at least about our certificates of achievement and our degrees, but these are the education courses that we currently offer. There's one that's not on here, which is Read 136, which is one of my favorite courses that I teach. It's a reading in STEM course, and it always fills up. I barely can ever even advertise it because it fills up, and it's a learning community course that is linked with one of our math statistics courses, Math 219, and I work with an amazing partner here at the college. Her name is Alicia Frost, and she teaches the Math 219 class, and we have the same cohort of students. And my reading course, Read 136, is a 1-unit course, so it's a support course, and she gives me a quiz question every week, and I break our students up into small groups, and I'm teaching our students specific reading strategies every week. And I don't know if anyone else has heard of Reading Apprenticeship, but it's through a wonderful company in Northern California called West Ed. And since 2016, I went to my first conference with them, and it completely changed the way that I read, the way that I annotate, and the way that I would teach reading to children, to how I even prepare for a meeting myself to engage in a conversation. So we embed these different reading strategies. Every week we've got something to work on, or sometimes we'll go back to a strategy. But like Professor Frost in math says, oh my gosh, the students in that cohort, they get she said it's usually like a grade higher above that what they would get if they didn't have the support course. And there's all different ways of supporting our students, right? We have our tutoring center, many different ways. But that particular one, I think what's special about it is just really the engagement. The students feel like they have a safe space to kind of like talk about, they're like, you mean we can like talk about this math problem? We can share like our steps to get to it. And they do, and just something amazing happens. And then we also incorporate growth mindset, and we do a whole, even it's like a math and reading class, but we do a whole unit on grit, and then they create a grit video, and it's one of their favorite parts to have math and reading students like opening up about their life. It's really something, and it's like one of their favorite for that particular course. It's one of their favorite parts. So we are still our Read 150 and Read 151 course, critical reading and thinking. It satisfies that critical thinking course that they need for transfer. So if our students decide to take an English critical thinking course or philosophy critical thinking course, but the reading is a fun one and a really nice option for them. The writing is not, it's a 3-unit course. Those other philosophy and English courses are 4 units. So sometimes that's a little more affordable. We wanted to keep it equitable as an option. And we're reading in that particular course a lot of articles. And so I'm excited to kind of bring that over on the education side because I think that's really important for our students. So, and I think, it's just like, gosh, we're envisioning things a little bit differently. And I think it's going to be good for our students. And something that Sarah and I are really passionate about is the literacy side of things. And so when we've been talking about professional development, and I know Regina has always had that dream of like, could we create like a literacy center and library here at SCC for the community? And then our students can be tutoring children, and we can get senior citizens here that
we did start cataloging our library with like a bar can. Scanner. I was like, we have our own library.
So we have big dreams, and we would love to I think so I'm excited that that reading portion is coming over because it can still satisfy, they're all 100 level courses. It's not, oh gosh, with AB 705, we kind of took our below 100 level courses. They're all now 100 level transfer courses, even our 101 and our 102, Introduction to Academic Reading. So reading is like, yes, still that basic skill, but also so much about, yeah, it's so important, and the critical thinking part of it, and the analysis, and just like getting, especially right now with all the social media, but it's like students, just like before you click the share button, just like ask questions, right? Like ask questions, like think about this and like learn how to evaluate the evidence. Well, like, yes, I want you to create your own opinion, but we want to like ask questions and wonder and think. And like if these, we know the value of right education and child development when there are sometimes we're in meetings at this college and I just look at every discipline. You would not know
If it weren't for,
right? So we know the value in that. We feel really fortunate that we have had that brain development training and experience and the pedagogy. We have a lot of professors here at the college that have not had that they are amazing experts in their field. We feel fortunate that we've had that, but it's just a reminder of like,
it's
wow,
really interesting because I know we are, speaking to the choir, but at the same time, the reflection that's embedded as an educator, I think as almost like a ecological or a sociological like truth that is for us, it's not shared. Right. So there's a lot of people who do their job and they do a decent job, but for us, we know that we're modeling. We're talking about teaching, and then we're teaching about teaching, and then we're modeling about talking about teaching. So it's very meta at a lot of times. And so yeah, I've been in those meetings where you're sitting here and you're in the meeting and you're the participant, but then you sit back for a second and you're like, oh wow, like I wonder how many people here differentiate or even know what UDL is. Like what it's like. Sorry, it's in chapter 2 for me. It's like it's not optional. It's something that we need to make sure that we are including for. So it's a wild trade.
And then too, the part that I think it just pains me is that school learning and being in school, we need the organ of teaching and learning, which is the brain, but we know so little about it, and we teach our students so little about it. They're going, I'm frustrated. I'm going, but yes, that's where learning starts. We've been taught that it's something bad. It isn't. That's your biological energy to find out how to not be frustrated. And the process you go through will build your brain and shape your brain for solving problems. We don't teach teachers how brains work before they teach, and we don't teach students how brains work before they learn. That to me is a serious oversight that's handicapping everybody. What she's talking about, the reading skills, how else are you going to get through a class if you never read it? If you never know how to, I give reflections, and I actually have students every semester. So what should I reflect about? And so I have.
What do you mean reflection?
Yeah. So what do you want? No, it's your reflection, it's your thoughts, how you're perceiving the information, what you think you can do with it, how it matters to you. Well, I never thought about it like that. Well, that's what I want.
Welcome to college. Welcome to college.
Yeah,
You are simultaneously developing yourself as you're learning about the content.
I signed this particular thing because I wanted you to think about how that matters to both you as a student or as a human being or as a citizen or whatever. But I think we need to do a better job in higher education is having teachers understand that we need to teach ourselves how brains learn. It's changing all the time, but we also need to let students in on the whole deal here to make it easier for them. And I mean, I'm sorry, we didn't learn about this before. I would have drug you over soon.
No, I love it. And in our Read 101 course, we have a book that we do called College Reading, the Science and Strategies of Expert Readers. The first 2 chapters of the book is on learning and the brain and the science and the dendrites and the the students, they do reflections in that course, and that is always their favorite 2 chapters. So like what I had, like, it's not just like all done. Like I might not have ever really considered myself like a good studier or note taker and like actually have the power to do that. and they become more metacognitive and they learn how to like think about their thinking and be more active in their reading. And it ends up changing them even as an adult. And like, oh gosh, yes, there's hope for all of it. I want to make sure that Sarah shares. So
follow
a
that.
little bit
That's all
about
great.
and education, but just so excited to work with all of my incredible colleagues and all of you.
Likewise. Well, thank you. I first of all want to share that I am living the dream. I am not by identity an academic. I just happened to find myself in academics as a preschool teacher who wanted to help other preschool teachers. And so I spent most of my career teaching 2-year-olds. I used to tell people like, oh no, I got a master's degree to be better at changing diapers. Like that's my role here. And I just found myself having people in my classroom, parents come to me with questions, and I'm like, oh, I should teach adults. So that's how I ended up here. And then SCC hired me to run our early childhood apprenticeship program, which right now we have just under 60 students. We have 3 cohorts. Our 3rd cohort just went into the classroom at the end of January. And these students in an 18-month program go from absolutely no experience to children to 2,000 hours, having met all 26 of our apprenticeship standards, which is really focused on best practice with children. And they do that through the combination of on-the-job learning and coursework. And so for me, it's ideal. I get to see the practice of early childhood education combined with the theory of early childhood education. So my role is all the way from student support. These students are coming to my office. I get like tears and joys and hugs. I had a student come to me 2 weeks ago and was like, I wanted to Cal State Fullerton. She came to me. She was like, I'm just going to get the units to get my permit, and then I'm going to start teaching preschool. We're like, okay, that's the goal. And then about 3 months in, she was like, what do you think about transferring? I see it in your eyes. Yeah. And then the next week she came to me, she's like crying over something. I'm like, we are getting all the things, all the way to faculty support. So we have 1 faculty that teaches just for the apprenticeship program, and really looking at how do we take practice and theory and make them the same. Right now we're doing that with early childhood educators, but my goal is that we can do that with other career opportunities. So looking at how do we do that with behavior technicians? How do we do that with family child care? Looking at what our field needs and figuring out the pathways to get them through academics in a way that makes sense. Sometimes students come to us and that's how they get to the field, but also when I look at the field, I'm like, oh, you got to get back to us. You got to get back into academics. I am currently the current past president board member, too many words, for the Orange County Association for the Education of Young Children, which really covers birth to 8. So when I look at that portion of my role, when I look at that, I'm like, oh, we need to get our TK and Kinder back here, whether that's professional development or an actual course. We need to get a space for our FCC providers to learn and grow. And so this role really allows me to generate those ideas. SCC has been very supportive. I'm sending math ideas all the time to my dean where I'm like, hey, what do you think about a fully Spanish degree? She's bought it. She said to me the other day, did you know my degree was in Spanish? And I was like, I got you. You're in on this idea bubble. Looking at how do we implement the same model when it comes to expanded learning, right? Just because someone is serving children from 3 to 6 doesn't mean that their role isn't important. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't have the brain education, the practice education. And so that's really my role here is right now I'm running the apprenticeship program and the rest of my time is dedicated to workforce need and how we as an academic agency meet that. In April, I almost said August, in April, OCAIC, the Orange County Association of Education for Young Children, will host a professional development event here on our campus. And that's really the goal. The goal is if there is a community need that SCC is here to serve it. That SCC finds ways to get practitioners in here because we know that the most successful thing for our children is that combination between workforce and academics. And so that is why the academics have converted me. They've moved me over here. So that's my role. That's my little niche. I think really what I would love to hear from all of you is if we're trying to fill that gap, what are the gaps for you? Because you're in a practice every day that we are not a part of. What are those gaps, and whether we're helping students get from here to your 4-year program, or we're helping other practitioners get back into school, what does that look like? And what do you think we can do from an academic lens, but also a marketing lens? How do we meet your people? How do we, how can we do better outreach? So I'll stop talking so all of you can talk.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. I'd love to hear from our community partners and see if there's any ideas that popped up, or did you have any goals for coming into the meeting and things that we could answer for you or fulfill any requests or ideas?
I actually did have a question, just to go back, Amy, we
Yeah.
were talking about the observation hours.
Mhm.
Now, I know our programs, we are, one of them is a licensed school age childcare program. So we are at the elementary school campuses, but we're not in the elementary school classrooms. So our organization has partnered with UCI, Cal State Fullerton, and Dominguez Hills, where many of their students can do their field study hours at our programs. Do you have any classes, if it's, we're focusing on after-school care, where students are looking for observation hours that may be more in an after-school setting, or is it strictly the elementary school classroom?
There are sometimes our students, like if it is a California credentialed teacher and say it's, they're like a coach after school and it's on that campus, or, you know, it's a game and they sit, like, because some of our students they're already working from say 8 to 5. And so sometimes we do have to be a little bit creative and get them to like a school board meeting, or goodness, what else, or like watching a practice, but it can't be like, you know, they're like, I went to my, you know, recreational and soccer coaches team and like, oh no, we can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then sometimes even like at a private school or a tutoring center, we still have to kind of stick with the CSU. I'm trying to think of even another example that happened recently, and we were like, oh, that might not work. But so give me, Rhonda, am I understanding that a little bit more?
Yes. So, for the classes we teach, for your before and after school, we absolutely can have students come to your program, because so if you think about the permit, the school age permit, whether they're receiving, you know, or, so, right now I teach 111A. It's practices and principles. It's one of the CAFE courses. So we have 3 observations that will equate to about 6 hours. So students have the option of going to a program from birth to 8 to do these. And I actually speak to them and talk to them about the preferences. And so if I have a student who is interested in school age or considering doing work with school age, before and after school care program would be great. I also offer them it's one of our first classes where we encourage them to also go to a family childcare provider, especially if that's something they want to do. So I think that's one of the areas that can be a connection. Amy probably has connections for you as well. But when you think about the child development aspect of it, that is your before and after school is covered under it's the Title 22 connection. And so our students are part of that Title 22. So you gave me your card, and when you talk about it, one of the things Sarah and I have been talking about, and as a department we've been talking about, is putting together a list and going to what Amy was saying, putting together a list of schools that our students could go to, or we're sharing with them, here are some partners in what we want to do. So if you want to have a school age experience, you can go to some of the Rainbow Centers. If you want to have this experience, if you want to do a family childcare experience, here's some schools that we have partnerships with, and so on. And it was going to happen this winter, and then we moved. It was going to happen during winter break, and then we moved. So I'm hoping we can do it in summer, because I would really love by next semester for us to have something in our Canvas shell where a student that we can all share, and a student can look at and say, I need to do hours. Here's the availability of these schools, and this fits. And oh, great, they have, you know, second graders or third graders or whatever, up to 12 or what have you. So, because I know you said you also have a general childcare with them.
Yeah, and that's so great, because when you were talking about getting that practical experience working with children, and some have never worked with children. So our programs, we're pre-K up to 6th grade. You know, we do have children all day long. Irvine, it's half day kindergarten. So if we have students that want to focus just on maybe the 4 or 5-year-olds, in pre-K, they can observe that. What's been really great is we have had, students come in and observe and figure out, well, maybe this is not for me, or they love it so much, and actually some have applied for a position with us and has gotten hired on, and they found, wow, this is something I really liked, or I thought I only wanted to work with the kindergartners, but I'm working with the 6th graders and I love it. So, we're more than happy to provide, opportunities if you're looking for, school age care experience. What is also great is our company, even though we're an independent program, we're not, run by the school district, we do have really great connections on the campuses that we're at. So some of our staff members are able to volunteer in the classroom. Sometimes they lead to jobs, as when they get their credential and things like that. So we're just happy to open those doors for whatever their journey may be. So I just wanted to see if our program would be something that we
Absolutely.
could.
And not only just in her case, like any other courses, because I teach teaching a diverse society. And I give observations, and a lot of times it's just with the preschool, but a lot of people who that doesn't fit their time schedule or whatever. But it'd be great to have them be able to observe how this issue is addressed in, say, your program or another program.
Awesome.
And I really want students to explore the different age groups. I shared with you that one of my first jobs was substituting at the before and after school. And I decided that after kindergarten, I'm done. But I can be in an infant room with, 1 to 3, 1 to 4. I'm good. I love it. We're good. Like Sarah, I love the 2-year-old and I think it's a poop part thing. I don't know. But after kindergarten, that's not for me. And people need to know their calling. And
That's
I know
where I
mine.
stepped into kindergarten. Yeah. So I was a pre-K teacher before I worked for our company, and I worked with 4-year-olds, and I loved it. Then I moved up with the school age children, and I just found like that was my passion. And sometimes I would fill in with the infants and toddlers, and I still enjoyed it, but I felt a little like a fish out of water. And my passion is the older kids.
Yes.
But by every age, you'll meet somebody who's passionate and loves and
Yes.
understands
Yes.
that age, especially those tweens in junior high.
Yes, yes.
So I had a question about the bilingual education certificate. So, is it a pretty extensive list of classes that students have to take? So, for example, if I'm thinking strategically for our students to get in on the certificate program, is there ways that they're currently doing their bachelor's of local studies, and then they have this like room for electives? If they decide to take the certificate classes, they get their certificate, but also if the classes, if the classes
I
like.
love that idea.
Also, just kind of thinking if
It's totally doable because it probably, like James could speak on that, like you probably can actually double dip in a lot of the GE courses that they're already taking. And there might be just a couple more courses and they can add on that.
I'm wondering
that
if there are specific classes that they can't take, we can swap in with the Vanguard class and kind of vice versa. If they all kind of work.
James, you would answer that best, but I bet no. And if it was pretty close and equivalent, and I know.
Yeah, because it's hard to read the office is advantage, so the infrastructure or resources to provide. I know Long Beach are very well.
Yeah, so they might even be at, like you're saying, they might be a Vanguard student. We want to offer that certificate. They can come and take either a couple SCC classes, or maybe there's some courses that can.
Yeah, there's space in their entire kind of course you have to take kind of elective. I'll let them make it a little bit more beneficial, practical for them.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and who knows that if they have that certificate, it might even like put them in the job. Yeah, allow them to have like a part-time job. I mean, Sarah and I were talking about that the other day, that she's like, oh my gosh, I'm translating a lot into Spanish, and like, and we just the other day, we had this Bright Dream Big event with middle school students. And thank goodness one of our career coaches were there to help translate, but we have 3 middle school students who did not speak English. And so we needed a translator. And so there is a huge need, especially right now.
46% are Hispanic, but then, and we're HSI, but believe it or not, we don't have a Spanish class. That's how we're still like starting to ground up, but we didn't have a Spanish class at the beginning. So even just by virtue of having Spanish and kind of language class is already huge. Just to have that.
Oh, that's great. And I think between James and BNA, like They're absolutely, I think we could.
So Alex, was your,
Great thing.
was your vision for Vanguard students to take classes with us?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
then also FPP students to take classes with you?
Exactly, that could be the next kind of, step, if you're just gonna take our classes. We already have some SECs taking our classes, but I think that would have to, we have to like figure out some different kind of articulation groups, kind of figure out, okay, what is this class to this class? And so, if, you know, we're seeing this like crossovers with SEC.
Yeah, that would be.
But for our vendors, we definitely need the language and the you provider, we don't have all of it.
One of the things that FCC is just starting to look at and really starting to work on is credit for prior learning. And so they could come to us and say like, give me credit for this Vanguard work I did. And then that translates to units at SBC, which then build into that certificate, and then they may need a couple more. Also applies to our family child care providers, right? Where they say, I've worked 25 years in this field, and we say like, oh, we can take that and turn that into units. And so that's something else that we really have been talking about is how do we accommodate for students who have done the work, who've been in the workforce, who got to their 4-year and have the academics and now need this other piece. So definitely, I think that ties also into the credit for prior learning and kind of mapping that way too.
Which is a good segue for me, because there's a CPL meeting at 10 o'clock.
And that's a great question.
James, I
Thank
love
you so
some
much.
notes.
We'll probably like get in touch with all of you, just to,
Yes.
kind of flesh it out, but those are very, that's just the case.
Thank you,
guys.
James.
Well, thank you for allowing us to outsource, you know, our students to you.
Like, these are the great things that I feel that
By the way,
can be born.
Alex kind of mapped out kind of where if a student came to Vanguard with an associate's degree, they could potentially do just one more year of upper division bachelor degree work and then the 1 year of credential.
Yeah.
So we have that pathway.
That's great.
And then the counselors, when they're taking the courses here, could give them that information, so that they don't miss
And
out.
we've been trying to get in for a while.
Yeah, and I would say like, within the game changer, like assist, or this is kind of a transfer portal, or if I'm a SEC student, I can look at all the Cal State's UCs, plug in my transcript, and it'll tell me exactly what remaining classes to take at the 4-year school. So now it's become much more transfer. Students are consumers, they can kind of fluidly kind of move between different schools, because you don't need to see a counselor to like, you know, do a degree on it. You can just like plug in your transcript, you know, it's like automatically what classes I need to take. So it's just how it works. Right? All the Cal State, all the community colleges that are already on the system, and so we don't gone are the days where we have to do like MOU specific with each school. Now students have the freedom to kind of choose, kind of like, you know, the whole medical insurance, like the California marketplace. You just kind of pick and choose what you want to do. So it's much more customizable.
And to add on to that, with CPL, with the state, they have what they call MAPs, and it's a mapping system with credit for prior learning. And what that's going to help create is students that have experience certificates, degrees, and stuff like that will go into a system, and all the colleges that buy into it and have, you know, credit for prior learning, they will tell you what that you would get at this college with your cert, with your degree, and this is the experience. So students are gonna shop around. They're gonna look at these different colleges. Oh, I get 48 units at this. I'm going here. I get, or this started with veterans, you know, using their JST stuff, and then each individual college will give credit for prior learning differently, and so students are now shopping around and getting around. Yeah,
It's much more competitive now.
yeah. CPL is an answer to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's exciting times.
Oh,
Thank you guys.
Thank you, James. We're so fortunate to have you on the team.
Oh, I'm glad to be a team player.
So much. And that reminds me that, I know I was giving that example of like in Norco, but as we start to develop our list with our partners, we want to remove those barriers and obstacles that our students face. So every school district, if we're just even talking about our local school districts, when our students are going out to do that field work, some of the barriers that they're like, it's even like, oh gosh, well, this school district requires fingerprinting. They shouldn't, because it's volunteer status. Or this school district, I need to have a TB test. Or this one requires a different set of vaccines. And there's even, for example, like a lot of our students don't know this. We just had this conversation with one of our instructors the other day. I'm like, you don't need to make you don't need to go to your personal doctor. Did you know that at our SCC Health Center, you can actually do the TB questionnaire, and with one of our health providers here, you answer a set of questions. You don't have to have the air under your skin or the x-ray on your lungs, and it's just a questionnaire. They ask you if you've been out of the country, and then they send you the form, and then you can send that to the school district. So like our students, they can do that part of it there. It just
The risk assessment.
the risk assessment. Thank you so much. But it would be nice to have for our students to know, okay, at this school district, at this school, through this company, here's what they require. And then we could touch base with that school district. I'm gonna take that upon myself to just each year that we're checking in with them and getting an update to see if any of their requirements have changed.
We had talked about doing that as a survey, like a Google Doc survey, and sending it out. We wanted to first start with conversations at the advisory, and then send out something after people have left or after we've connected with them, so they're not just giving us a blind, hey, we're SEC and this is what we want to know, tell us all your business. So that's one of the things I know we were talking about putting together, because you're absolutely right. And that actually, this time for Parkcom, that was the biggest barrier for the students. A lot of them are actually working this time around, which has really been an interesting shift. And they're like, oh, my employer only asked me one time and they don't need it. And so, but here at the college, it's once a year. The risk assessment, and Michelle was able to do that. Some went over to SAC. Some did go to their employer and they've been able to work that out. So that's been an interesting process too. But I think that together we can make those things happen. And so maybe in the near future, maybe probably summer, maybe look for a survey from us or something saying, here's some things we're wondering about your program, what you do, your connections, who do you send your students to, etc. And then doing that. We also are planning an open house that I think we're going to add to the list before we leave for summer, so you can see the new days.
Location.
Our new location.
Yeah. So I want to be cognizant of everybody's time. It is 10 o'clock. We can continue the conversation via emails. We can have more conversations in individual meetings with each partner. We want to definitely encourage this conversation to keep going, which I really appreciate it. The last thing I didn't hit on the agenda is that we have two statewide programs that we do support our students with. Really quickly, the Training Consortium gives an educational support grant to students who are working and taking classes. And so since we had our own account, we went from 50 units that we pay our students back $45 a unit.
The students have to be from this college?
The
Yes.
program is statewide, but we just run our college.
We have like an account.
Every college that has a program has the same opportunity. So.
Oh,
And as long as it's a licensed facility, yes, they get money back even if they're on a grant or they're on the promise or they're anything. So yeah. So if you have a student who's a SEC student working for you, you have them contact me.
There's a priority list. Unfortunately, there are different categories for what they qualify for and where they are in the ranking. But we still encourage them to apply.
yeah.
Right.
These friends?
Yes, this one,
Well-
this ESG.
Well, I would like to get more information.
Sure.
It's on the apprenticeship.
Credit for prior learning.
No, you mentioned something about the years of experience.
Yeah, credit for prior learning. So
That, because many providers have tons of years working with children, but
yeah,
they don't have any.
formal education.
Yes.
Right, so we're just starting those conversations here. I know Saddleback has been forging that path a little bit ahead of us. But we're just now starting to, like James said, that he's going to meeting and we're just starting to have conversations with all these people about their experience in their field and how it can translate to units. Yeah.
But they have to go through working committees to do that. You have to give them,
Or
this is what we're giving credit for, this is the experience that they have, this is why they match. So in order for it to be official,
So, from there, it will if you guys will give them, and I'm talking about family chapter,
Mhm.
so you guys will give them a path to continue their education to obtain a higher degree
So it
or?
depends. So right now, what, I'm gonna give you an example. So if a family childcare came to us and said, I have my CPR, I have my first aid, I run a food program, and here's the, like, my licensing standing. I could say those four things equal our SLOs in health, our student learning outcomes and health, safety, and nutrition. So you're gonna give me these four certifications, and I'm gonna give you 3 units of college credit.
Right.
And so through that college credit, they could build a degree. I don't know as though we'll get to a full degree pathway, but it gets them started. It gives them a portion of that. So right now, we're at the stage where we're looking at what are the industry certifications, what are the industry markers?
And how do they
So,
match? our classes?
Yeah, I'm looking at like in family childcare, what are the things that our FCC are doing that are not, right? They're getting CPR, they're getting health and safety. Many of you are running a food program. So those are things that directly relate to our student learning outcomes.
Mhm.
So once we have that clearly packaged, then we'll be able to put it through our curriculum process. And then we can start marketing it to family childcare and say, no, what you need to do is bring us paper. And then
So
that's
when do they bring you all the certification or the papers that they get from the classes that they have taken or workshops?
Well, transcripts are moving, so workshops are a little harder because workshops, oftentimes we publish workshops with like a brief description. And so you could bring me a certificate, but it may not be translatable to a student learning outcome. So workshops are great and workshops are important and we might be able to create a pathway for the workshops, but easier are these certifications that already have a concrete meaning, right? CPR has a concrete meaning, and I can directly say anyone who brings me a CPR has been trained in these things. Workshops are a little harder because they're more ambiguous. Yeah.
And it takes a lot for us to, the state has a list of all of our content that we need to cover. So we need to make sure yours matches to that. So that process, like Regina was saying, just to say, this is what we need, this is what you have, that could take up to a year or longer.
Because
So we're just in the beginning stages.
we're gonna have questions of the people that sit in this body. How is that equivalent to this college course?
Sure.
And we're gonna have to defend it, so we have to have some information and some data to be able to do that. So that's what we're working on now, is to look at what practical experiences would translate into this, taking credit for this academic experience, in the classroom.
One of the things I do know about family childcare providers and from my experience, and just as in the field, we do tend to we go to workshops, we go to professional development, and that might be, that professional development piece for sure helps that. But, if they, to help us and to help themselves, to, package or be prepared to package what they have is to definitely, if you haven't start an e-portfolio or start a portfolio. If they're not on the registry, get on the registry, because a lot of information is on there, California Workforce Registry. That would be helpful as well. We're still figuring things out, but those are tools already there that somebody can utilize and can just kind of click a button, print out something, and it's there.
Okay, because I ask these questions because in Mexico, they're giving this, title, I need to translate it. Se llama titulación por experiencia laboral, y es un acuerdo. Y me dan un número de 1986 y hace cuenta que no, si no tienen el diploma de maestra de kindergarten, con este título les dan el diploma, pero basándose en la experiencia laboral que tienen. Y nada más hacer no me acuerdo cuántos meses son de unas clases que tienen que tomar y luego les dan un examen. Y por medio del examen, el promedio que sacan, le dan el título por experiencia laboral. Y aquí en Estados Unidos no lo he encontrado en ninguna parte. Entonces estaba yo pensando, ¿cómo se puede traer ese tipo de programas en las universidades o en los colegios para que las proveedoras de cuidado infantil que son más grandes de edad puedan obtener un título por experiencia laboral.
Sí, parece ser que eso es lo que quieren hacer, no más que a lo mejor no se va a ver igual. She was sharing that in Mexico, they do very similar to what you described, except that you get an exam.
Right, so we call that credit. by
Yeah.
That's
paper.
correct, yeah.
And then based off that rating, then you would get that credential.
Yeah.
But most of the years that they have been working in the field, right, and they didn't have the credential, then those years counts per the credential because of all of the experience that they have been working with children and everything else that they have been doing to stay on the field, you know, teaching those children. And so they get that credential in Mexico.
Yeah, so we're in development. We're still creating those processes. And we are open to credit for prior learning and also exams for credit. But again, this is a big process and they're talking statewide. So this is not something that we can just roll out really quickly. So we're getting closer to getting you what you've been asking for years. But it's for years, yes. But it's gonna be a lot of
What would
moving
be
parts.
helpful is some actual information about the people who want to have higher credit. What experience do they have and what do they want credit for? So I would just like to see that because that would help us frame.
So for example, the UPK and the TK has been taken away of children and many providers don't have that. So in order for you to have UPK and TK children, you need to have a title. Right, a title that you are a teacher and you're teaching. So credential teaching from the state of California.
Well, the permit
Which-
is in the credential.
Yes.
So they have the child.
So ECE is always permits and then credential. So in Mexico, they use the word credential, but here it's.
No, I'm talking about here.
We
In
don't-
here,
Yeah, we don't do
you guys,
credentials.
here in California, I have 25 years of experience, right, and I have many units from different college of the classes that I have taken. Well, that doesn't qualify me to work with children with a UPK
Correct.
program.
But credentials are gonna be from the 4 year schools, not
I think,
from us.
well, I think, I would love, I know, Dr. Villa has lots of experience in this. I think we want to be careful to say that a permit is not a credential, because a permit is offered by the Commission of Teacher Credentialing, and so we want to make sure we devalue early childhood educators.
Not to say value, but it's just there is.
There is different distinction.
Absolutely, they are different. But I'd love to hear about, from the UPK standpoint, I know this maybe needs to be a part 2 meeting, because we have now run over. But the mapping for a family child care to become a UPK served provider, and how, you know, our role as academics can support that. If there are units, if they need to get on a permit pathway, if they need to advance, we'd love to be a part of that conversation. So maybe we could take these specific questions and turn it into an agenda for a follow-up meeting. I think that would be, yes. I just added you to our
And I'll
agenda.
just highlight that UPK is the umbrella term for all providing 3-4-year-olds. So technically, family child care is a part of it. TK is just the component that is expanding.
Well,
And so that's
because
where.
the numbers out there in California are showing that family childcare providers have been left out of the UPK. As we sitting down with the state to negotiate to include it on this year, because
In terms of the funding, is that?
in terms of giving us the opportunity to be the teachers of those children, because they are taking them away from our facilities. And that is a fact.
We're doing the same thing to the.
Yeah. Frustrating.
Well, like you suggested for, yes, can give you maybe a list of all the things, why don't you guys keep doing that? Yeah.
Can you make a list of some of your concerns and then we can.
Well, that is a main concern. Providers are losing their children due to the UPK and the ticket.
Well, add to that.
And also
professional
the
development.
2 years old, because they're going to districts instead of giving us to kind of childcare providers.
On the flip side of that, infant toddlers still need, wonderful places like Family Talker. However, we know the cost of infant toddler is extraordinarily tired and truthfully, that's one of the reasons we have that nice little, and I know a lot of people are coming that way as well.
We're such a child development people and education where we just like can't stop a meeting.
Yes.
Like,
I find that